What do you do in small group?
Guided reading.
Guided reading on the level?
More chunked type of reading, so like whereas a higher kid, we would let them get through the whole story and then ask questions. A lower kid, we would maybe chunk it a little more, read, a smaller passage and then check for understanding.
Okay.
Before we moved on to see, where's their thinking or where are they lacking.
Okay. What are some other things that you guys do with your struggling readers?
I don't know if it's the right thing or not, it's my first year, but, what I do.
Everything's the right thing if we're trying and learning and growing, okay?
I try to work on the stories, the little booklets, like a certain skill every time, like one time it's, main idea, then it's maybe compare and contrast, something like that each time, so they get practice doing those.
So you explicitly call out pieces or components of reading for those lower level kids each time to kind of make sure that they're understanding what those
Yes.
are, okay? Other things? What about when you group kids or you do tutoring or things in class? What do you do with them that way?
How do you group? I know when I taught reading, I grouped them in levels. I don't know if that's appropriate, but I did. Because you have a really smart one with one that's not, it's hard. They don't do the same thing. So in mine, when I did reading last year, they were with ability, same
Okay.
ability.
So homogeneous grouping, okay?
Sometimes we let that higher kid, like usually we have that homogeneous grouping
Mhm.
and the downfall of that is that the kids, these low bunch of kids they have nobody to ask.
Because their thinking patterns are all at the same level.
Right. But,
Uh-huh.
so we'll let those, really high kids help them, but sometimes they get frustrated, so you just
Mhm.
know that you're gonna have to attack that group, check on them often, because.
Yeah, and to answer your question about homogeneous or heterogeneous grouping, is there isn't one right answer. Like if we did everything the same all of the time, it wouldn't work for us, right? So we have to mix things up and try things. So the homogeneous grouping works when kids are at a certain level, so you can help attack the same skill at the same level. And then sometimes the heterogeneous working, when you put an upper level kid with a lower level kid where they can explain strategies. And this is best case scenario with kids that are all motivated to learn, right? They can explain strategies and things, and sometimes you can put some structures into place. Like yesterday, we talked about the 4-square model, where when you put them in small groups, when the upper level student is working with a lower level student, to stop them from just giving the answer and being frustrated, they have to talk the student through 4 squares, like talk them through writing down the vocabulary that's important in the reading, talk them through what the summary is and how they found the summary, and then both of them together have to decide if the lower level student were to teach this to somebody else, how would they teach it? So then they're asking, what did you say? Oh, that was helpful to me. And then, whatever your 4th square wants to be, reflection on what did the peer tutor did that helped me? What do I wish he would have done differently? Or peer tutor, what did the learner do that I liked? What do I wish they would have done differently? And then you can kind of give them kudos or points for those things, and then they're working for the extrinsic motivation of how they're working together versus what they are, which sometimes helps. But so a combination of groupings. I just didn't want you to think that, did I do it wrong last year? How did I do it?
Well, I did okay.
You never know.
Okay, so.
Yeah. So imagine then, let's think about it this way. Imagine if all of these upper level kids that we chose that didn't make growth, imagine if these kids were in 5th grade, right now with their current skills. The 5th grade teachers would be treating them like they were the struggling learners, right?
Right.
And that's because the 5th grade teacher would be sitting with them doing guided reading and talking them through those things. What if, because we're trying to move these kids to advanced, you treated them like the struggling learners sometimes? You created a guiding reading group for these kids and then chose a book that wasn't at their instructional reading level, but that was at kind of their frustration level, where you're doing guided reading with them, moving them to talking them through it, actually giving them strategies, actually
Making them sound it out.
making them do the things that are a little bit above their level so that they are thinking and growing. And you put them in the small groups and you did the things that you currently do for your lower level kids. Do you think that would assist them in the growth where they're at then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cause I think we tend to leave them alone, and so they just stay, safe.
They are the closet kids, because the stakes are very high for our kids to meet standard to begin with, right?
So that's really the goal.
where they go, can we get a six?
Yeah.
But you're at a school where your achievement is so high that now we have to meet growth, and we can't meet growth because those high kids have to grow, so we have to reframe our thinking for two levels of intervention. The low kids that we can't forget, and now the high kids. And the question is, how do you do both at the same time, right? And, yeah, it was always the question, right? How do we do everything that we wanna do? And I think the answer is you don't have to. I think you build in strategic times and opportunities where you choose to flip those groupings. And you put your lower level kids on AR and let them go, or do their small group, whatever you would have done for your upper,
Easier
maybe
they
they
can do
journal
now.
together, or maybe they do story reading together, choral reading, whatever they're doing as their own small group. And with the upper level kids, you make them your kidney table, or whatever you guys call them,
Right.
your small group, right? And you don't have to do that as often as you do the lower level kids, cause clearly bringing kids to standard is a much more difficult task than it is to grow kids who are already at standard. But I think we do have to find some opportunities where we do those things strategically between now and the middle of the year test, so you can assess whether or not having this extra attention on them makes them grow. Okay?
So when's the middle of the year?
Okay, so the middle of the year test is January 10th through January 30th. So we've got 2 weeks of time period between now and we go on break.
And we
And
go
then
break
you
then.
have the opportunity to choose when between January 10th and the 30th, you actually do your middle of the year test. Now, having said that, I know that we have computer time and we have one lab and we have some technology constraints. One of my frustrations, working in this position that I'm working to change, is that right now we're testing around our technology infrastructure and constraints, which means that we fit our instruction and best practices into a model of furniture or computers. That's not best practice. Best practice is that we test when it's good for us, and the infrastructure meets our needs. That being said, yesterday we talked with fourth grade, is that I'll be sending out a survey for schools that need additional technologies, such as cows or those sorts of things, and I can have them brought in so that you guys can test better in the time period that you wanna test, so it gives you more time for intervention. And then we can continue doing that through the year with the schools that need it, so that you guys can test when it makes sense, so your test represents gains of student knowledge, not, oh crap, we had a test here, I only had 2 weeks between then and my progress monitoring, right? So keep that in mind as you're planning when to do the middle of the year test. So based on the information we just learned about the kids and the gains they made, and what kind of grouping we wanna do, what interventions do you wanna do, and then when will you plan in that test? So those are 2 things for you guys to decide this afternoon, cause you're gonna have to do this for math too, and kind of determine your grouping.
We have a cow that we don't even get to use.
They don't work? The laptops don't work? I think it's not even half of them that work.
And has technology come out to look at them? Has a technology request been put in? Did technology say they're too old, or what's the deal with the cow?
I don't know, we have somebody that's in charge of it, and I know that they were gonna look into it, but I don't know.
So there are little things that we have to fix as we go along, because it's not just, oh, we gave a test, oh, we see growth, and all of this this whole thing just represents, our ability to teach and how the kids are learning. There's all of these other factors in, and one of them is the technology piece we just talked about. The other one is doing some groupings and interventions to meet the needs of all the learners, upper and lower, not just our lower level kids that we've been doing. And here's the third piece, and we alluded to this and talked about this a little bit when we were talking about our little Riley kiddo, right? Is that it also has to do with motivation. It has to do with why the kids would want to take another test, which is their 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th, 20th test this year, right? And what's in it for them. And so sometimes when I said, print out these little things for kids, so now that we're reviewing this, maybe the third thing you do this afternoon is to determine, how do we wanna motivate kids as a team? Do we wanna print these out and give little gold stars to the kids that made growth? Do we wanna give them, tickets? Do we then say to kids, hey, this helps me put you in the right kinds of groups and move you around, and if everybody in the class gets a little bit of growth, then, this is what will be our reward for the whole class. Do we then, conference with kids, like you do individual conferences, I don't know if you do on Friday or whenever you do them, and say, hey, look, I only see,
10 points growth, can you tell me why you only got 10 points growth? And you may get the answer of, oh, I didn't know it was important, I know you told me it was, but we never do anything with this. Whereas the AR reports go home to the parents, and the parents see them, and the kid may be getting a big kudo from their parent or an affirmation at home that we're not even aware of, and that's what motivates the kid to try harder on the AR than to try harder on this test, because they don't even know, I mean, there's 101 different things to think about, but the motivation piece and what we're doing with that is the third thing to think about, so that we actually see better growth middle of the year to find out, or that 200-point growth. How'd you get 200-point growth? Oh, miss, I really used that strategy you told me about, the day before we went into the test, where we went circled things and did that. I did that in my head, and you're thinking, I didn't even know as a teacher that they would even think about that the next day, right? So we can learn a lot from that. So that's okay. So in general, what we just did was kind of look at the growth of our lower group and our upper group, right? Now we're gonna look at our growth report for a different reason, but I wanna close out this discussion and make sure that, that there aren't any more questions or comments or things we wanna discuss about moving our kids from unsatisfactory to satisfactory and satisfactory to advanced.
Still have a question on the
Uh-huh.
screening report and the summary report.
Yes.
Are they the same timeframe?
Okay, so the screening reports, and this is good for you guys to know, the screening report only prints at the beginning of the year window, the middle of the year window, and the end of the year window. The summary report is exactly the same as the screening report, except it doesn't have a nice little pretty graph at the top with a prediction for the end of the year scale score, that sort of thing. And it's printed landscape instead of portrait. But what it does is you can summarize the test results up to that date. So if you have a kid that tested outside the window, they won't be on your screening report. If you have a kid that only tested once, they won't be on your growth report. But every kid will be on your summary report.
Cause this changes my target kids.
It could change your target kids. On your summary report, what I did for your summary report, and this is what I was gonna talk to you about next, but it's fine, we're talking about it now, is I ranked, you can print your summary report by last name of your students, or you can print it by the last test that they took, or a certain date range, or you can rank them. What I chose to do was to print it by the last test they took, and then I ranked them 1 through whatever, so you could see the kids with the highest scale score and the kids with the lowest scale score. So even if they only tested one time and their test date was, let's see, I don't know if you had anybody outside the window. You did though, had somebody outside the window.
But your top jobs are already in it.
So let's see your summary report here, because I want to show.
Oh,
Is that
my
what you're
lows?
looking at?
I was looking at my lows. Just like Zayla's right in
Okay,
the
so do you
middle.
notice here on this summary report that this kiddo, Amira, is ranked number 7 in the class, but she didn't test this last time. The test date her last test date was in August. But, so she wouldn't be on your growth report, but she would be on the screening report, but she's right here. So this summary gives us a rank of everybody up until now, and this, with your military population of kids coming in and out, it's better. The summary is better, except this gives us.
Call Rangers, please pardon this interruption. The temperature outside is still at 38 degrees and state law says that we need to keep our students in when it's less than 45. So we're going to keep them in and we're going to monitor the temperature. And
It's cold.
if we see that it rises, then we'll allow students outside. But for now, please, students will remain inside.
Oh man,
Thank
I
you.
almost put on like thermals. I almost put on thermals today. Okay, all things being equal, right? And I love that saying. My dad used to say it to me all the time. All things being equal.
And you're like, they're not.
Yeah, they're not equal. At the beginning of the year, you would add every student, and they would stay for the entire school year. So all of them would be tested, and they'd all be present on test day. And then they would all be
Never
present when you
happens.
took the next test for your growth report. So you would only need this report and your growth report. But since all things are not equal, right, then we have this summary report that catches everybody all the time. Okay? And when you progress monitor, it catches them before the next screening window, before the next one of these. So you can always get a ranking of kids. Because the screening report is your ranking of kids at the beginning of the year too.
But this is your ranking of kids now at the last test you took, and since she only had this one, it adds her in. Okay, thank you very much. So they're really helpful.
Growth and summary.
So, but see, we don't have the screening report we use at the beginning of the year because it gives us the we choose how we wanna choose our target kids, right? We make it a prediction on which ones we wanna move to at or above or move to satisfactory, and then we can make our prediction on it. After that time period, until the middle of the year where we see the graph change, which might make us feel good to see, more above, right? Really, the summary report is what you use between those. Okay, so now let's look at okay, wait, I'm sorry. Any other questions before we move to the next thing? Okay. So, now what I wanna do is look at our summary report, look at our back page of the summary report. The back page of the summary report gives us our percentile rank distribution summary, and the percentile rank is nationally normed. So below the 25th, below the 50th, 75th, and above. Gives our grade equivalency distribution summary, and it gives the instructional reading level summaries, right? Okay, we have to choose a TLI goal. And we have to choose a TLI goal, and your TLI goal is the kids that we want to move from below standard to at standard, right? That's the TLI goal. Now with Powell, we have two goals, because we're trying to get our kids to advance because we want more distinctions. But first we're going to choose our TLI goal. The best way, I think, to choose the TLI goal is to look at your percentile ranks, because kids who are below the 25th percentile, clearly below standard, right? Okay, 26th to the 50th percentile, below the midway point of the class, I would still consider below standard, right? Once they hit midway, would you consider those below standard or kind of at standard? 50th to 75? At 50th to 75, okay. So let's look at the kids who are below the 50th percentile then. 14 of them. Okay, so how many do you have? Below the 50th?
The 8 and the 6.
The 8 and the 6, 14, okay. How many do you have? 8. 14. 14,
So
okay.
we're all about the same.
We're about the same. But do we think that somebody who's at the 1 percentile can really move to the 50th percentile?
No.
Maybe not. So let's make an accurate goal based on the data that we have. So go back to your growth report. Okay. Back to the growth report. And I want you to look at the column. Now we're not going to look at scale score. Now we're going to look at the percentile rank, the PR column. And for the first, and we're going to assume, just like we had to go back with our screening report, we're going to assume that we did this at the beginning of the year, but we didn't really do it at the beginning of the year. So I want you to look at the first test that kids took. And I want you to circle anybody on their first test that has a percentile rank below 50. So circle the number. Percentile rank below 50.
One.
See, I knew there'd be a 1, and there's always a 1 somewhere.
And we're just looking at the first.
You're just looking right now at the first test, is all you're looking at.
Keep circling. You're done?
Where's your pens? Like 17. Marker?
Maybe we can't get her there.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah.
How many? 14, 17, huh? Is that what you counted?
So everybody circle those? Okay, now what I want you to do is put a check mark next to those same kids that increased above 50.
same kids. if
Same
they
kids, so if
did
they had like a
more-
42 and their second test was a 54, you'd put a check mark next to them. If they were at a 42 and their second test was a 48, they didn't increase above our 50th percentile.
Oh, okay. So now, the kids that you circled, their second score, is it above 50? Oh, check. Yeah. 2, 3, 6. Matthew?
Guess I could look at the last page.
Yeah, 9. I think we skipped the Matthew.
We just didn't circle.
So right, that's where I leave it.
So I need to put teachers' names.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
I got 10. 11.
Kira. Honorary Aiden.
Ava. Because I'm checking the wrong ones, that's right, I'm checking.
Ramos, Vincent.
6, 7, 8. 9. You get 9?
Ramos, Rasmussen? And then, okay. Oh, I forgot Paloma, no, we're on here. Yeah, I should've, I
Oh,
know.
you wrote her
Lorena,
first
I
name.
put Paloma. Still in order. Okay. Okay, so if we wanna get kids to the 50th percentile, let's start in order. Ms. Laspada, how many kids did you originally have that were below the 50th percentile rank?
19.
You originally had 19 below the 50th percentile. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, our goal might have been 19, right? How many increased up to now they're above the 50th percentile?
9.
10 increase, because we have 9.
Okay.
9 of them we checked off. So 9 of them increased.
So now, I'm writing in pen. I just want to remind you, I'm writing in pen. Do I have to switch that? Those numbers, okay. So that means you really have 9 students that are below the 50th percentile rank. Or 10. Of those 9 or 10 students, because we know pen is more important than accuracy, right? How many can you reasonably get above the 50th percentile? Look at
got
the-
about half of them.
Look at them, look at the kids that you don't have the check mark next to, okay? And let's determine that, because we wanna be realistic with our goal, right?
Tyler,
And you use both your data, you use the
Elijah?
percentile rank, look at the points that
Elijah.
they've grown on their scale score, do you see growth, does it look like there could be growth?
he didn't have growth, but I know he
Then
knows.
choose him, yes.
Gosh, Jonah looks like a, go after all.
He's, remember, he was your hopeful, there's an
He
H,
was.
Jonah is our H, our hopeful.
This one for sure, this one. I don't know about Caleb, what do you think about Caleb?
Another one. Depends on the day.
Depends on his
You
day.
could be wishful.
Yes.
You could be a W instead of an
Well,
H.
if you got him, that would give our school even more points, because he spit also.
Okay, so,
Another half of them?
okay, so how many total?
Let's say 5 more.
I'm gonna write a different number. All right, so you are
Let's be
settling on the
hopeful.
number 5.
Yes.
Okay. You're settling on the number 5. Is that your final answer?
My final answer.
Your final answer is the number 5. Okay. Okay. So Lorena, how many did you guys have?
We had 14 below 50,
Okay, so you had 14 below 50.
and then 6 mid-growth.
Okay.
No. Hold on. You're writing with pen. So 14. Yes, 6 mid-growth, and then out of those 6, 3 can get up maybe in the next for the MOY.
So you see what I'm doing here is, yes, technically 9 of our kids, or technically 8 of our kids didn't come above 50%, but not all 8 are doable, right? We can't take a kid who's at the first percentile rank and move them to the 50th. We'd love to be that proficient, but realistically, we can take 3 of those kids. That's what I'm asking you. Okay. So, Ms. Ramos, yours are the same, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so it's the same.
I know it's Penn, but it's RASM. In case you want.
No.
I don't know.
Okay, I could be that person, that's
I
all
think
right.
I was thinking of Rapunzel. Was it Rasputin? The little guy that made Rapunzel? No, the spinning of the silk, right? That little.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin. Maybe that's what I
You're
was
thinking
thinking.
of, what's his name?
Rasputin.
Rasputin is on, that Anastasia.
Okay, I'm doing something. Okay. All right. All right. And your numbers are the same
That's less about it.
as hers. Okay. Okay.
I had 9 that
Okay.
were below 50. 2 of them went above the second test,
Okay.
and I think 3 came above.
Okay. And now we're gonna do a little bit of math together, okay? So somebody needs to add up for me this total number of kids here.
We counted 19 twice because they're the same kids. We share classes.
I guess not, well,
No, 19, 14, and 9.
okay, so I gotta use a different color, okay, to denote the same classes. I'm just gonna put an orange line through it, because we know that they're still our goal, but we have the same kids.
19,
42.
Okay, so that equals 42. We'll put a little key down here. Okay, so this equals 42. Okay, so technically, if we wanted 100% of our kids, if we will increase the number of students by 100% scoring at the 50th percentile, our number would be 42, because those were all the kids in our grade level that were below that. But we can't get 100%, right? Okay, so let's say, for the sake of argument, well, these kids are already above, right? What is, add up these kids.
18.
Okay, 18 is what percent of 42?
She's doing it really here.
You're the math gal.
I know.
She's like
But she does it all, she does it like that.
Yes. See, I'm not one of those like that people
No,
either.
either.
So I wait for somebody to
I'd
tell
have to
me, and
write
then I
it
write it in
down.
pen.
In pen.
In pen.
I don't even know how to figure it.
It's 42.85%, 43%.
43%. Okay. Okay. So technically, if we would have put a goal of 43% here, we would have already met our goal. We will increase the number of students by 43% scoring at 50th, 70th percentile rank. But you guys don't get off the hook because these kids made growth. right? Because technically our goal would already have been made. And we're waiting until the middle of the year, right? So we're gonna make a better goal. Right? And so it's gonna be 18 plus the additional kids you think you can make growth with. How many is that? 11. So 18 plus 11 is what?
29.
29 of 42 is what? Percent. Sorry. It's a little over half, I know that. I just don't know what.
73%? No, I trust you.
What is it? I'm in pen, remember?
69%.
69%. Okay. So if we wanted a really accurate goal, we would put 69% in here. I'm writing in pen, so I'm not putting it in there because I know that you added some hopeful kids into your group.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think would be the best percentage to add in here that would push you guys, right, to keep the growth for these kids and add more in, but not be too ambitious, assuming every single one of your kids that you chose is going to make growth? Or maybe it is 69%.
No. What was the first percentage?
No, you already met the first percent. You already
Right,
used
but
that.
I wanna go somewhere in the middle so I know what the
42. No, 43% was your first one.
43. So,
50% should we put? 50?
50% would knock off one or two from each one of these, would it? What is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? If we knocked off 2 from each one, it would be 25, which is about 27 instead of about 50%, 55%. That would be taking off 2 kids from each one of you, give or take. Somebody will have to do that. Do you feel confident with the 5, the 3, and the 3? If you feel confident, make it 69. If you added some hopefuls in there that you're not quite sure, drop it down a little bit.
just 60%? Is that being too hopeful?
I think you should shoot for 60, why not?
69.
What happens if you don't meet it?
Right.
Nothing, but I.
Our self-esteem is crushed.
It's in pen.
It's in pen. It's in pen.
50
So-
it is.
This last column here, that's their,
So these kids already made growth to 50.
yes,
Which leaves 9 more kids left.
uh-huh.
But we don't think all 9 of them can make
So
growth
those are like
to
the
50.
hopeful, like that's what
So
they're,
This is the ones we are pretty sure close
That are
enough gonna
gonna-
make growth. Yeah.
gotcha.
This, so in this number 9 number right here is
Uh-huh.
included the kid at 1%, or
Okay.
1 percentile rank and 2 percentile rank. So we don't reasonably think that they'll get to the 50th percentile, so we're gonna take them out of our accurate goal number.
Okay, gotcha.
We're not giving up on their growth,
Yes.
we're just not expecting something that's unrealistic.
Okay.
All right, what do you think? What did you decide on?
50 or
56.
56% in pen, here it goes.
Uh-oh.